what are we going to do about education? What policies need to be in place? What do you see? What's your opinion about this?
Well, at the elementary and secondary level of education, the key word is inequality. Because your ability to get services from your school system in the first place depends on where you live. As every family on the spectrum knows, some school districts are better than others. Some schools are better than others, even within a school district. So if you live in an area where the schools aren't so great for special education, you've got a problem. But more than that, the services you get will depend on your ability to be an effective advocate. And that, in turn, gives an advantage to parents who are doctors and lawyers and professors who have the knowledge and the time to put into this. Whereas if you're somebody working 2 blue-collar jobs just to make ends meet and perhaps don't have the training and education, you're going to have a much harder time getting the services for your children. So finding some way to equalize this, some way to get better services for poorer people, for people without these advantages, that's key at all levels of government.
Well, and I always think, my goodness, if I'm having such a hard time, what is this like for somebody that English isn't their first language?
Yes.
That overwhelms me all the time thinking about that, what that must be like.
Sure, here in Los Angeles County, we have over 100 languages spoken. Now, school districts try to keep up with that, but still it's a tremendous challenge for somebody in the district who, for instance, their first language is Arabic. There aren't that many Arabic speakers in the school systems. And that's difficult even for people not on the spectrum. And so finding ways of getting greater opportunity for people right at the start can make a great deal of difference.
Absolutely. And then as we move into the college years, you're experiencing this firsthand. There's more and more students that are on the autism spectrum that are going to college. There always were people, I mean, obviously Dr. Temple Grandin, went off to college, and I'm sure that there were lots of people who didn't get a diagnosis who went off to college, but more and more, you make the point that as more and more, you make the point over and over again that all children who have autism end up being adults with autism, and as more and more of those children get good therapy, it's likely that more and more of them will get to go to college and have that experience. But is college ready for that? Are college campuses, do they have policies in place to make that happen in a productive way?
Some do. Some are very alert to this, but something that's really important for autistic people and their parents to realize, particularly those who are currently in high school, thinking about college, the laws that apply in elementary and secondary school do not apply in college. The Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, which covers elementary and secondary education, doesn't apply to college. There are some laws that do apply to college. The Rehabilitation Act of 1973 and the Americans with Disabilities Act do apply, but the protections in those laws are different and far more limited than students have in the elementary and secondary system. And that's really important to know. It's also important for faculty members to know in dealing with their students on the spectrum, being able to communicate with them, understanding their challenges, and that's something I hope to raise awareness of with this book. I hope some of my colleagues read this and are better able to communicate with and nurture their autistic students.
I hope so too. And I wanted to turn now to politics in this moment in time, and it's changing every 10 minutes. But it seems like, I don't know, I'm stunned by some of the things that are going on, and I've been watching the debates with great interest because as a parent of an individual on the autism spectrum, I'm very interested to see what the policies are that people are wanting to put in place. Obviously, the conversation doesn't turn very much to autism. What is your current, as you're looking at this field, what are your thoughts? What are you seeing for these prospective presidential candidates?
Well, it came into play during the Republican debate. Donald Trump has repeatedly expressed his belief that vaccines cause autism. Ben Carson partly disagreed with that, but talked about spacing out the immunizations. Mm-hmm. But to a large extent, that's the wrong conversation to have.
Right.
The right conversation to have is, how do we get help to kids on the spectrum? Yeah. What can the federal government do to assist this level? And the candidates do have a record on on these issues. Far and away, the candidate with the longest involvement in these issues is Hillary Clinton, going all the way back to her time at Yale Law School and then her work with Marian Wright Edelman. So whatever you think about Hillary Clinton's other policies, this is her stuff. She knows this issue really well. And if she were elected president, I think she'd be very receptive to the autism community. But there are other candidates as well who have a background in this issue. Jeb Bush and Marco Rubio both worked on autism legislation in Florida, so they know something about this issue and know about the provision of services. In fact, Jeb Bush mentioned autism in his introductory campaign video. The trouble is, a lot of the candidates might not know that much about autism, not know about the decisions of the National Institutes of Health, know about the role of the Department of Education, and the complex relationship between the states and the federal government. We've talked about uncertainty, we've talked about conflict, but the other other leg of the triad here is complexity.
Yeah.
Ask any parent of a child on the spectrum, ask any autistic person, and dealing with the system is amazingly complicated at all levels of government.